How's it going? See if I can make it talk. Hey Matt, how you doing? Hey Matt, I saw you said you were going to go to the Miami meetup. I might drive down for that. I got a buddy down there from college. I haven't seen in a while. That'd be great. If anybody wants to speak, just raise your hand. I think I invited everyone to speak up if they want to. I didn't have a real agenda for this space or chat or what have you, but
Hey mate, I just joined, saw the space open up, and yeah, interested to see what everyone says.
yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to start doing these things daily to help people discuss and talk about everything that's going on because there's so much, and I want to keep it more educational, not sort of price chatty and whatnot.
Perfect.
So I don't know. Last couple of days, I was reading a whole bunch about Sologenic, and man, I got to say, I'm impressed. I don't know if anybody else has been reading about them. I haven't set my trust line yet, but I'm going to. I'm going to help a business partner of mine set up and get all into crypto. She's executive in a pretty big software company, and everybody would know. And so she's starting to get interested in crypto, and I'm going to help her do the Sologenic trust line, and she's got to set up everything though from scratch. And but holy cow, man, Sologenic! Wow.
Yeah, I was actually. It's 10 a.m. in the morning here in Australia, so I was actually going to spend today and doing a bit of research on them. I already set my trust line. I've read a little bit into them, and yeah, I'm very interested as well. And plus, they have one of the most followings on CoinMarketCap as well.
I mean, I don't personally follow CoinMarketCap. I was just reading their white paper, and I can see kind of how they're setting up the architecture, and I'm not going to say that I completely understand everything. I'll say that I'm impressed. It looks very professional, and I can see how they're segmenting off various functionalities. Probably some of that's for regulatory purposes. And I watched Thinking Crypto's video where he was interviewing, I forget the guy's name offhand, but one of the co-founders. And he was explaining how the company's split into two different entities. I'm sure that's for regulatory stuff. They're getting their broker-dealer license both in the States and Europe and the UK. I mean, I still have more to read and digest, but wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna, as I say, I'm gonna look into it today, and I don't want to be spoon-fed with information. Obviously, I want to do my own, but could you maybe tell me if the deal with the Nasdaq or partnering with Nasdaq for the last 2 years is true or not? Because I've heard wind of that.
I have no idea. I obviously have no inside information or anything. From reading the paper, and I have had a securities license in the past, from reading between the lines, I would guess there's a reasonably high probability. I can see the incentive from Nasdaq's point of view. I'd be scratching my head wondering how they're going to do what they're wanting to do if they didn't have some sort of, commercial arrangement with an exchange like a Nasdaq, and remain regulatory compliant. I mean, the regulations is the big thing. The technology, I feel like a lot of the stuff, we've got the technology, but you got to be compliant. Like you got to stick within the. And this is why I don't really see crypto as a big threat to banks or anything, because somebody has to be that regulatory layer, and that's
Yeah.
that's I think a evergreen issue that the banks are well equipped. I mean, they have benches of lawyers for regulatory compliance and compliance officers, and all of that stuff. None of that's going to go away. The markets need that. Otherwise, you get bad things happening.
Yeah, and once again, fairly fresh to this, but do you see the connection with Sologenics and like the future of the liquidity hub happening? Like a connection in that way?
I hadn't thought about that. I don't know. I don't really have a thought on that. I hadn't thought about that. I think the liquidity hub, there's just not a lot of information out. I mean, I see the benefits and advantages of having a liquidity hub. XRP and what Ripple's doing is all about liquidity. Liquidity begets liquidity. It's going to snowball. When it really starts rolling, I feel like exponentially. It's probably not going to happen until after the SEC lawsuit. I don't know. I can see Ripple lending XRP. They essentially have like a cost basis of nothing. So they can incentivize market makers to make sure that liquidity flowing through both RippleNet and XRP Ledger is at the most competitive price. And then at that point, it comes down to volume. And once the liquidity providers start competing against each other, it's going to come down to price and cost of liquidity. And I don't think you're going to find a lower option. And I mean that both in terms of straight money cost, but also time.
Yeah, as well as like less
what's
friction
everyone-
to deal with.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Just wondering, what's everyone's take on this recent below a dollar price on XRP? I know I bought a bunch. Is this like a final shake off, you guys thinking, or?
I mean, who knows? I try not to talk price too much and just keep these conversations on, how's this stuff work? I told some friends, hey, it's below $1 if you want to get in. But I don't know. I don't really want to go on about price. There's plenty of other folks that talk price, and who knows? It seems like with Ripple, or XRP, this is the weirdest thing. Great news comes out and price goes down. Nothing seems to make sense to me. So I don't know how to make sense of it. So I just try and not talk about it.
More just speculative kind of chatting, you know what I mean? Not so much about the price, just the going ons.
Yeah, man, I have no idea. You could throw out 1,000 reasons and all of them will be right and wrong at the same time.
What about the ISO 222? When do we all think that? Because I remember reading somewhere that they were thinking of like a 3-phase implementation, but then they were putting it out to the public for commentary on a 1-day implementation switch type of thing. Anyone heard anything new?
I'm not fully up to speed on that. I think the last thing I read said it was going to be kind of this time next year, like November next year, before it would start. And then that might have been phase 1. I think I did see the thing about a couple of phases. That is very significant, and that's something to pay attention to. I know that.
Yeah, I'm going to try to find a tweet, and I'll pin it if you don't mind. And it was like a screenshot from, I think, the Fed website. So
yeah, good for it.
I'll take a second.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely something. It's been in the works for years. I think that's also tied in with the interledger protocol, or interledger protocol is tied in with that, or it's yeah, that's going to be the standard at the end of the day. How long it take? I mean, these are massive institutions that have to adopt and change their infrastructure. Nothing happens overnight, and I'd call overnight a 12-month period. So it's going to take a while.
Are we talking about the Federal Reserve and the testing with Volante?
Probably. It's the ISO 20022. It's the payment standards that ultimately are going to be adopted by, globally.
Cool. I posted. It's on the top. I pinned it to the top of my Twitter if you guys want to look at it. And there's links in the comment section if you guys want to know more.
Let me check that out. Yeah, it's something I've been sort of casually following, but okay. I see what you're saying here.
Yeah, I got it all. I researched it all. I even have a screenshot of the Federal Reserve and Volante, and then on the bottom of that, I attached some links. So if you guys want to check that out, okay. I hope everybody's doing good.
Yeah, this looks good. Thanks for putting it together. I'm just reading it for a second. They got Ripple Connect in there. I probably need to ultimately sit down and just read the ISO rule. I don't. Do you know if that addresses the KYC AML between institutions? I would think it does.
I think as far as that, the World Forum already has that in their papers. So if you guys want to research the World Forum, just Google that and then Google Ripple, and then you guys will see everything in there.
Say that again. Google what?
Google the World Forum with Ripple, and then you guys will see that it's a .org website.
Like the World Economic Forum?
Correct.
Okay. Let me make a note of that. Yeah, the ISO, that's going to be a big thing. I mean, it already is.
Yeah, I just pinned, like, I sent it to V for XRP, the actual website, and he decided to screenshot it and post a tweet. So I can send you the link to the actual article on their website if you like.
Yeah, I mean, share information. Hold on, I'm looking at what you posted. In 3 separate phases previously proposed. Okay. Wow. Specifically, the board is proposing that the reserve banks adopt the new message format on a single day rather than in 3 separate phases as previously proposed. That's interesting.
Yeah, if you just, what did I Google? Let me just find out. I just Googled Federal Reserve ISO 222, and it was the second option. It's their website, so you can search that yourself if you like.
Yeah, cool. I'm recording this, by the way, so I'll post it up tomorrow, just so people can hear it down the road. Yeah, if anybody wants to speak up, just raise your hand. It's open forum. I wish we had somebody that really knew. I'm just going to have to read it. I remember back when ILP first started, and they and the ISO 2022 was kind of getting worked on, and I think the W3C and Interledger guys were in on that, if I'm not mistaken. I need to read it, I guess. It's getting to that point. I mean, these companies have to be working on integration at this point if they're going to try and roll it out by next year.
Oh, definitely, because a lot of countries I'm speaking for USA because I'm from USA and we're behind, unless a lot of things are actually working behind the scenes, which I'm thinking, because I think USA probably has everything in tracks. I think the regulation is just a smoke screen, and I think they already said the document that is shared right now. I think it correlates to the document that I pinned up on my Twitter. So I think everything is in the works. We're just waiting on regulations.
I kind of have a feeling you're probably right, more or less. None of this stuff moves fast. You can't screw these things up. This is too important. So I think slow and steady wins the race, and it's got to be done right is the main thing. Was there any other topics that folks want to discuss? Or
Hey, yeah, I wanted to ask you guys a question. It's kind of a technical question. Has anybody been using the Bifrost wallet? I'm having kind of an issue. I wanted to ask you that.
I'm using it for my Songbird. What's up?
Well, so I have the liquidity pool going, and then I took my LP and put it into the Flare farm, so I'm earning D-Flare. But on the wallet side, I tried to add D-Flare as a token. I was able to add the Flare X token, but I can't seem to add the D-Flare token. Like none of the on the like you can copy the contract address from the tokens, but none of them seem to be working. I don't know if I'm supposed to be able to see D-Flare on my Songbird wallet. Does that make sense?
Do you mean like on the interface on the Bifrost wallet, or do you mean on the actual web app itself?
On the web app, in the phone, in the phone, on the web app, in the wallet. So you have Songbird, Wrap Songbird, I have Flare X, I have Canary Dollar, I can see all of that. If I go to Flare Farm, I can see how much D-Flare I have that I'm earning, but I'm not seeing D-Flare in my, it just doesn't come up as a coin in my wallet.
Oh, there's a way to set up the D-Flare on the Bifrost wallet. So if you go, let's say you click on, 1 second here. So there's gonna be a button there on the bottom. It's like an arrow that shoots up.
The arrow, yep.
Yeah. So click sorry, I think it's send, I believe. Yeah, go to send, and then go scroll all the way down to the bottom.
Okay.
You're gonna see add custom token.
Yep.
And then you.
So I've been doing that.
Yep.
But the only issue is that none of those D-Flare addresses
are migrating over to that particular wallet.
Right.
Yeah, that I don't know, because it is still in like a testing phase. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I should just tweet out something too.
Yeah,
sorry about
I agree on that one too.
Labs.
I think it's testing out, and I haven't figured that part out right now. I'm delegating with let's see where I am delegating. Don't tease me, because I am doing half a FTSO and I'm doing best FTSO just for the NFT points. But I think the Flare one, I don't think they have that figured out yet.
Have you gotten any NFTs off of that yet?
I got quite a lot of points. They do like some kind of NFTP system, and I did get quite a few already.
I must have missed that. What did?
That's the best FTSO.
Or would you delegate?
So I'm delegating 50% A FTSO and 50% best FTSO. Anybody has like a better recommendation, or like what do you think like everybody should do, or your gains?
I mean, like, that's like personal preference. I feel like whatever you find value in, which is nice because there are so many different delegators and different reward rates. So I mean, like, you could chase reward rate with these delegators. You could also use best FTSO and take advantage of their NFT marketplace. So I mean, it really just comes down to where you think you can make the most value, I suppose, because it looks like a lot of them are pretty similar, at least in reward rate. So just trying to leverage the most amount of value. I think you're already doing it by using best FTSO. But that's my opinion on that. I have a question for Matt Hamilton, if he's actively listening to this talk. I had a question about whether it's going to be possible with NFTs on the XRP ledger to do kind of like memberships and like reward systems on the XRP ledger through this basic smart contract capabilities that it's going to have, or if you're going to need to build the smart contracts on a separate network and then leverage the payment system that way, or of the XRP ledger with like hooks or something.
Say that again. I'm not sure I understood the question.
So if, like, let's say I have a gym and I can make like a year membership token, and that's the NFT. You can then fractionalize that, right, and have your payments, or you could have it as like a smart contract for like your year and have your yearly payments. My question specifically is, would that functionality be plausible on the XRP ledger, or would I need to look at different mechanisms to use with the XRP ledger to make that possible?
I'm just speaking from an XRP ledger point of view. I think it would depend on how the NFT was minted. I forget how many decimal points, but there was a conversation a few months back about doing NFTs. And if the NFT is done at the smallest decimal point, then you can't sort of fractionalize it or bifurcate it or cut it into pieces. But if it's done as like a whole unit, then I think you can do partials. Like you could, have half of a issued asset or a quarter of an issued asset, that kind of thing. Matt, did you want to speak up?
Hey, folks. Yeah, sorry about that. I joined this originally on my desktop, and unless I'm mistaken, I can't find anywhere to actually speak when you're on the desktop. You can only speak from the Twitter app, it seems like. So I was listening there, but unable to actually reply. Yeah, I think you're right about the fractionalization of it. If you're using one of the standards like XLS 14, but that has been deprecated now. XLS 14 is basically a sort of an accounting hack to get NFTs, in which you define an NFT as being effectively a new currency that is so small that it can't be divisible, and hence it is non-fungible. But if it's obviously really small, then you can't have it be semi-fungible and kind of divided up if you wanted to do that. So, but I think that's something they are working on semi-fungibility with XLS 20, I believe, as a kind of a future enhancement to that.
Is that something Weetsy and the XRP Labs guys are working on? I started the conversation on XRP chat a while back, but then I saw Weetsy had published like some standards. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about.
So the XLS 20 standard is the one that's been developed by Ripple, well, at least led by Ripple, and the code was written by Nick Bogalis predominantly at Ripple. XLS 14 was Vitsa's standard, and that doesn't require any new code at all. XLS 20 is the kind of more featureful one, in which NFTs are actually first-class objects on the XRP ledger, and that will require a amendment to be passed to get that live. So there's currently a DevNet that has that on, but in order for that to get live on the main network, there's going to need to be a vote by the validators to actually approve it.
Cool. I've been seeing. I was looking at the XRP grants program, and it looked like they already approved several NFT projects, and I'm just shocked at how explosive the NFT space has been. I mean, it's not been a focus for me, but I guess I'm going to have to start paying more attention.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a weird situation, right? Because there's all these projects that have come about, but XLS 20 is not yet live and won't be for a while until it's voted upon. So, and there's the possibility, although slim, but there is a possibility that, you know, the network, the validators decide not to adopt it, and it never goes live. That's one of the, you know, one of the downsides of a decentralized network, right? You know, live by decentralization, die by decentralization. If the rest of the network decide not to adopt it, then it won't get adopted. But I'm hoping it will do. I think there's enough support for it to be adopted. So yeah, I think that'd be good. There was an earlier question regarding smart contracts and NFTs and how that would work and whether you would need to use a separate network. So the XRP ledger doesn't have built-in smart contract functionality. The XRP ledger was designed for payments and has a number of features native to it that you would need smart contracts to implement on other networks, things like escrow, multi-signature, even just tokenizing assets, right? And NFTs, right? You would need a smart contract to deliver them on other blockchains, whereas on the XRP ledger, they're native functionality. But that also means that you don't have necessarily the flexibility to write your own completely arbitrary custom logic. If you were trying to, whatever, build a game or something like that, you wanted to actually execute custom logic on the XRP ledger, you couldn't do that at the moment. But there's two ways that could be possible coming forward, and that is the Hooks Amendment, which is the thing that Wietse, Richard Holland have been working on at XRPL Labs, and that's hopefully going to be complete by the end of this year. And that allows you to write a certain amount of smart contract functionality native to the XRP ledger. It's not the same kind of smart contract functionality that Ethereum and the Ethereum virtual machine has, but it delivers about sort of 90% of that functionality, but at, you know, a tiny fraction of the complexity and speed requirements, right? So they're much faster, much more efficient, but they don't give you quite the full power that you would have with an Ethereum-based smart contract. But then the other way that this can happen is there's, with the sidechains proposal, there's now Ripple are going to be working on a sidechain that has an Ethereum virtual machine on it, right? So you'd be able to port over Ethereum-based smart contracts or write smart contracts in Solidity ledger that would still have XRP as its native asset.
The hooks, and I'm not going to claim to be an expert, but one of the sort of bodies of knowledge that I follow is called complexity theory, or like complex adaptive systems. And one of the key aspects to that methodology of thinking or approaching a problem is feedback loops. And with the hooks, you can tie in a series of transactions, and with all the different types of transactions you can do on XRP ledger, if you're creative enough, there's some really cool stuff that I think can be engineered. And then I feel like that's in contrast to this idea of, you know, a Turing complete system. And I don't even, and then as I was reading and learning some of this stuff, I bumped into some people who made the argument that Ethereum is really not even Turing complete because you have a cost for each contract, and theoretically, to be Turing complete, you have to have an infinite number of attempts, the contract, and, you know, given the cost, you can't have infinite attempts.
Yeah.
So does that make
exactly? Yeah. So for those that are not aware, Turing complete is a way. If something is Turing complete, what it basically means is you can write, you can express any program. If a language is Turing complete, then that language would allow you to express any program or logic that you wanted, even including writing the language itself in its own language, if that makes sense, right? So Turing complete is kind of like the sort of gold standard in some ways of languages, in that it means that the language is as expressive as possible, that you could write in that language any logic you possibly wanted. But as you point out, one of the things about Turing complete is, in order for it to be Turing complete, effectively you need to be able to have the ability to execute the code an arbitrary long amount of time, right? And with Ethereum, not only have you got the cost, but you've also got the situation where a block has to close, right? If you've got a block closing every, I can't remember what it is on Ethereum, but every minute or so, you've got a block closing, then your execution could only run up to that time. Now, on the XRP ledger, each block is closing every 3 or 4 seconds. So you couldn't have logic that takes longer than 3 or 4 seconds to execute. So the decision was made that hooks would intentionally be not Turing complete, and you wouldn't be able to express anything arbitrarily. That's why I said you kind of could express about 90% of what you wanted, but it is extremely fast. Hooks logic takes nanoseconds to execute, so it's extremely fast.
So I see FOMO's joined the group, and I know he's done a little bit of looking at hooks. If he'd like to pop on and speak up, that'd be great. FOMO, you want to talk about the hooks amendment and what you've been looking at?
I only just got here, so give me a few minutes to understand what's going on first.
Yeah, we were just talking about smart contracts, and I forget what the original question was. I think it was about NFTs and Matt, do you remember the original question? I think it was NFTs, and do you need to use a separate smart contract off XRP ledger? Well, I don't remember what the original question was, but then I was talking about the hooks and kind of my complexity focus and how you can create feedback loops, and that can really unleash a lot of arguably better potential than, in my opinion, than a Turing complete smart contract platform. But I mean, I know a lot of this stuff has just not been, it's so early.
Yeah, I think the original question was about NFTs and the XLS20 standard, and how you would then go about implementing custom logic in there, and would that be part of it? And the answer is no. Custom logic of that kind is not part of XLS20 standard, but could be doable via something like hooks. Sorry, I'm wrestling with my dog here that keeps trying to get my drink. So, you could use something like hooks or the upcoming EVM-based sidechain potentially instead.
Yeah, hooks and NFTs kind of go together quite well, because NFTs, from my understanding, they're basically like core concepts in the ledger. So there's functions you can call out to on the ledger that would mint an NFT or do certain functionality, right? And hooks, you would then be able to, if those two amendments made it onto the ledger together, you would be able to take NFTs and then kind of further them. You'll be able to do additional logic on top of the NFT. I don't know, maybe like an NFT has further actions that or knock-on effects. Maybe it sends a payment of X or a couple of drops here or there, or there's like a million and one things that hooks kind of open up, and they're kind of complementary standards, and they would be able to interact with each other quite well.
I'm just thinking out loud, but I wonder if you could use an NFT in like a payment channel and then somehow connect it to another external, non-XRP ledger network.
So
maybe that could even be fractionalizing an NFT that was not fractionalizable on or bifurcatable on XRP ledger.
So I've done some playing with hooks. I haven't done too much. And hooks, you can only execute something that's within the ledger itself. You can't call out to something outside the ledger, right? So if you wanted the price of another asset, be it Bitcoin or ETH or whatever else on another ledger, you have to get that kind of information into the ledger itself. So that's where kind of like an oracle comes into play to kind of like price the alternative asset, and then you can build off of that to do other actions. But actually moving an asset from, I think the wording is a atomic swap, right? Where you want to move an asset from the XRP ledger onto another ledger. I don't think hooks kind of provides that. That still needs to happen somewhere else, from my understanding.
Yeah, it's not exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking, if you put I'm assuming you know how payment channels work. So if you put an NFT that's on XRP ledger into a payment channel.
Yeah, that's not possible. the payment channels only work with XRP. So there have been somebody did propose to get them to work with issued currencies, and did a bit of work on it, but it was never completed. And then they'd have to do the same thing with NFTs once XLS20's there as well. And I don't know if it really makes that much sense, a payment channel for an NFT. Conceptually, it seems a bit strange that you would, because a payment channel allows you to send, lots of small parts of a payment. Well, with an NFT, the whole point is it's non-fungible, and there's kind of like one of them. So I'm not quite sure what, logic would make sense there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I do remember the conversation around not having issued assets eligible to allow issued assets into a payment channel. See, I told you I'd trip over myself.
So
The way you
are,
can think of-
are hooks currently in DevNet, and is there like a development environment to take a look at the EVM sidechain functionality?
So hooks live on, I think it's a separate testnet. It's not the main testnet. The documentation, if you just Google XRPL hooks, it'll take you to the Git repo, and in there is the connection details. So you just have to, what I used to work with it for the like code sprint we did the other time, you have to set up a local copy of one of the validators or nodes on your machine, and then from that you have to submit your hook to your local validator to actually kind of get your code to run within the validator itself. So yeah, it's there, but it's not testnet. It's a separate network. But all the credentials are provided in the Git project.
Yeah, there's a separate testnet run by XRPL Labs, and it's called something like hooks-testnet.xrpl labs or something like that. But if you Google for hooks testnet, you'll find it.
Awesome, thanks.
And the nice thing if you do play with it, the Sum wallet, actually you can connect your Sum wallet up to that validator as well, and you can use anything that's within Sum then on that testnet as well, which is it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, one of the differences between hooks and, say, Ethereum-based smart contracts is Ethereum-based smart contracts can define effectively any number of methods on the contract that you can call at any time. So you could have a method or a function on there that says, swap this token for this token, or lock this token up, or, add this token or whatever, right? So you can have a whole series of functions in that smart contract that you can call. With hooks, it doesn't work that way. With hooks, what happens is the code is executed when a transaction arrives at that account. So if you send a payment to an account, the hook is triggered when the payment arrives at that account. And so it could do things like, deny or accept that payment coming in, or trigger a further payment. So one of the examples is sending a small percentage off to, say, some charity site. So if 100 XRP turns up as a payment, it takes 1% of that and sends 1 XRP off to a charity account. Now, as you say, you could kind of like chain these together, and you could probably make some quite interesting, more complex applications by kind of chaining these things together that way. What I'd really love to see is whether you can, if you're familiar with things like Olympus, which is a collateralized kind of virtual reserve currency, and it's been ported to several different networks. So you've got Olympus on Ethereum, you've got Wonderland on Avalanche, you've got Hector on I can't remember which is on Phantom, I think. So it's been ported to a number of different networks, but any network that has an Ethereum virtual machine is very easy to port over to. I'd be really interested to see, almost as a academic exercise more than anything else, if you could rewrite it to use hooks to create the same sort of functionality. It involves several accounts and several hooks kind of chained together, but it'd be interesting to see if you could kind of construct the same functionality using hooks.
I mean, I'd think if you made those assets just issued assets on the XRP ledger, then wouldn't the answer be yeah?
Potentially. Give it a go and let me know how you get on.
I got to get my hands more dirty than I have. I know how all the stuff works, but I haven't actually, I don't think of myself as a coder. I just understand kind of the system architecture and all the transaction types and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, my I haven't had a huge play around with hooks, and I intend to do so more so, and hopefully we'll do a few Twitch streams around, hooks, actually kind of writing our own custom hooks on a Twitch stream would be quite good. But like I said, it'd be really interesting to try and see if you could, construct something similar to Olympus using hooks, and see how difficult that would be.
Now you got me thinking.
So much to grasp.
So one of the ideas I've had with hooks is if you have an escrow, have a balance in an escrow, and the money coming out of the escrow can trigger the next hook. I don't know if anybody's thought about that.
Yeah, I think that could be possible. I mean, one of the interesting things with escrows is when the escrow time passes. So if you escrow something for 1 month, date of the escrow, it doesn't automatically exit the escrow. Somebody has to issue a escrow finish transaction. I think it's called escrow finish or escrow complete, escrow finish, I can't remember, to the ledger to actually cause that escrow to actually run. Now, anybody can do that. And that's why, if you might remember a few years ago, there was a number of, shall we say, interesting messages submitted as part of Ripple's monthly escrow completes that ended up with a lot of dot connectors trying to work out, which lizard people were taking over the world as a result of it. But that's just simply because anybody can submit a transaction to finish an escrow, so they can put whatever memo they want in, and the first one that gets there after the transaction, after the escrow finish time, is the one that executes it. But what happens when the escrow completes is the funds are sent to a destination wallet as specified in the escrow. So I presume, yes, that destination wallet could have a hook on it, and that hook could fire another transaction. So, for example, in the case of Ripple, right, when, for argument's sake, 1 billion XRP comes out of escrow, we take, say, 100 million, and then we re-escrow 900 million. If that was set exactly in stone, that amount, then you could create a hook that would do that, I believe. So when the escrow completes, the funds will be paid out to an account that had a hook on it. When those funds come in, the hook would trigger that could run another transaction, and that transaction could be a create escrow. They'll create a new escrow for another, whatever it is, 5 years with the amount that's come in, right? So you could potentially get it to run a rolling escrow automatically using hooks. And that'd be an interesting one to play around with, actually.
So one quick thought and then a question. You could almost create an infinite loop where you end up black holing the XRP if it constantly gets re-escrowed and then re-escrowed 5 years later and then re-escrowed by a hook. That's the end of that thought. Question. Go ahead if you got a comment.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I'm sure there's lots of interesting ways you can shoot yourself in the foot.
What do you think about checks? Because they aren't those time stamped for but escrow is only for XRP. Believe checks can be used for issued assets. I think
checks are only XRP as well, but I could be wrong. I
No,
think
they're
they're
for
only
issued-
XRP.
They're for issued assets as well, but the difference with the check is you don't have to have the funds in your account. So if you issue a check for a bazillion, I don't know, doggy coin, you don't have to have that doggy coin in your balance.
Right, so you can write a bad check.
Correct.
Okay.
That's interesting. FOMO, you might know where I'm going with my thinking here. You can write a bad check? That doesn't sound good.
Well, it's basically like a real world check, right? It's the same thing. It can still bounce at your account if you don't have the funds. So what the intention is to represent the real world entity at the end of the day. So if you don't have the funds right now, but your funds arrive a couple of days later or whatever, then they'll be able to reissue that claim on that asset once the funds do arrive.
Okay. So that leaves open business opportunity for somebody to validate the funds, verify that the fund is not a bad.
Yeah, I think the original kind of business use case for checks was on the XRP ledger, anybody can pay into an account, and there's no way to stop somebody paying into an account, right? So say I'm a charity of some kind, I can't stop people donating to me, but I might want to, because I might want to only accept funds that have been somehow, KYC'd, right? I want to only accept funds. Or imagine I'm a political party and I'm accepting donations. I need to be, I need to ensure that those donations coming in are not from, some blacklisted organization or whatever, right? There's certain rules around, as a political party, who I can receive funds from. Now, ordinarily, I can't stop somebody from paying me into my account. So the idea with checks is I can actually prevent deposits on my account apart from by check. And that way somebody has to send me a check. I have to look at it and go, okay, who is this from? Do I accept it? If I do, then I deposit it. If I don't, I destroy it. Right. And that was a way in which you could actually check. You could actually verify, who was paying you before you actually accepted the funds into your account. Now you could kind of do the same thing with hooks, because with hooks, you could create a hook that would deny payment coming in unless it came from a certain account, for example. And so you could perhaps do some pre-authorization and flag up accounts first as to who can pay you, for example. So there's certain overlaps there, but I believe that was the original application for checks, was that if you wanted to verify who the person was that was paying you before you actually accepted the funds.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And then wasn't there also another feature where you can even reject XRP payments? Because I know you didn't used to be able to.
Yeah, that's, I think, deposit auth, and that's part of what I mentioned before, that if you enable deposit auth, then nobody could deposit XRP into your account. But I think you could deposit a check. So somebody could give you the check, then you deposit it, and that's how that process would work, I believe.
Interesting. I wonder if you could create either like both a blacklist and a whitelist through a hook. I mean, you could really, I don't know if that's possible, but you could almost have like one hook be the blacklist, and you just deny it and forget about it. And then if it passes that test, then have another hook check the whitelist. And if it passes that test, just accept it. And then if it doesn't pass that test, then you could leave it for, maybe human review.
Yeah, you could do things like that. And hooks can have a small amount of storage, I believe, on the account. So you could have a hook that would update the whitelist or blacklist on the account and have another hook that actually, reads that blacklist. So you wouldn't have to change the hook itself every time, but you could have one hook that updates it. So you could have one hook that actually verifies the transactions as they come in and make sure they're on a whitelist or not on a blacklist. And then you can have a separate hook that takes transactions coming in and looks at the memo field for a list of accounts to add to a whitelist or a blacklist, and then sets those on the kind of internal storage on the account for the hooks, if that makes sense.
If I'm understanding right, so then like you'd have one hook for a black or white list for a list of some sort, but then you'd have another hook that updated the list of the hook, like a hook B that updated the list contained in hook A.
Exactly. So the data, if I remember rightly, I think the data is per account, not per hook. I believe, I could be wrong on that, but I think at least one hook can see the data from another hook. Or you could probably have just one hook, and it could function differently depending upon who's transacting with it, right? You could have it encoded in the logic in that hook. Okay, if a transaction comes in from this one particular address, that's an admin address, and look in the memo field for a list of instructions of how to update the whitelist or blacklist. If it comes from anyone else, then it's a general transaction coming in, and you would then, consult the blacklist on the account and execute accordingly.
I hadn't even thought about that.
So
It'd be great if we had on here.
So I just got a question, and I'm not technical in any way, shape, or form, but when it comes to hooks, you said when it comes to an escrow, anyone could send a transaction to release the escrow, correct? So when it comes to hooks, and you said update the data of A, the hook A with a list, and then a transaction was sent to update that hook, can anyone send data to update A, or it has to come from a specific address?
Right. So anybody could send a transaction to that account, and the hook would process it. But what would happen is the first thing the hook would do, you would put logic in there that says, look at who's sending this transaction, and is it from the address that I deem to be the admin? And if so, execute this update logic. If not, just ignore it because I don't trust it.
Wow, that's even more powerful.
So maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but with hooks, you would potentially have the ability to create completely autonomous supply chains that could update themselves based on where product is, and you could verify the integrity of that data, assuming you are putting that data onto the XRP ledger.
Well, in a sense, I could see that because you can chain them together. FOMO, did you want to speak up?
You can do that there, but the amount of work to get that in there and that kind of flow in there is not that simple, right? But yeah, it's possible. I mean, at the end of the day, what Hooks is doing is just providing some sort of gate flow, right? So you can stick in whatever logic you want to kind of control the flow of funds, and that's basically what Hooks can do at the end of the day, right? The more there's another side to hooks which I think a lot of people don't understand. It is hooks are they're a very low level programming language. To actually write a hook is quite difficult, right? It's not just something that you can pick up and do. You've got to iterate over like an array to pull out anything every time you want to work with a string or something, right? It's not just like pass a string around. You've got to iterate through each character and pull out the characters you need and so forth, right? So it's very, very low level programming language. And I think that the value that will probably come over the next while once Hooks sort of comes out is some kind of abstraction layer that will allow you to, and that's what I kind of foresee, like, is an abstraction layer that will allow other people or not less low-level programmers to write logic and create hooks. So in other words, you would go to something like XRPL Explorer, you go to your account, you would log in, and then it would provide your web interface, and you would throw together like a bunch of for loops and gate logic via a form, and that would spit out, I don't know, it would allow you to funnel the funds however you want. And then you'll be able to save that on the Explorer, and that's kind of like your, that's what I foresee happening over there with hooks for an everyday, more quote unquote, more everyday user, right?
Yeah, that's actually being worked on. So one of the first projects we funded in the first wave of the XRP Ledger Grants project was a project called Scratch to Hooks. And it's by some people at, I believe, the University of Luxembourg that are creating it. They're Ubri partners, and they are. There's a system called Scratch. You might have come across. It's often used to teach kids how to code, and it gives you that exact drag and drop kind of visual programming, which you could say, okay, here's a for loop, and you drag that onto the template, and then you can drag your kind of logic in and build up your application logic. And I imagine that would be when that comes out, that would be a great way of creating hooks in that regards.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me. I don't know if anybody was around when Twilio first came out, but shortly thereafter there was services that allowed you to basically take the different functionalities and chain them together. So you could create like a cascade of telecom functionalities. Is that, I don't know if anybody was around for that.
Yeah, and there's also as well another project that we funded is XRPL for Node Red. So there's a system called Node Red, which is a what's called a low code or no code way of programming. It's open source. Originally, I think IBM were heavily involved with it originally, but it's an open source thing, and it allows you to, again, drag and drop different modules from many different things, right? So you could say, okay, I want to drag a Twitter feed onto here, and I want it to like find any tweets that have the hashtag XRP, and then I'm going to drag a Twilio node on here that's configured to SMS anything that comes into this phone number, and then in the middle of it, I'm going to drop a machine learning like sentiment analysis blob from IBM Watson in the middle, and I'm just going to wire them up so that any tweets that mention XRP get fed to the sentiment analysis. Anything that comes out that's positive that gets sent to Twilio, and that sends me an SMS, right? And so that's, using 3 blocks from 3 different providers, one from Twitter, one from IBM, one from Twilio. You can join them together, wire them up with your logic to feed one to the other, and very quickly have, an application that can do something, right? And it's used a lot with IoT things as well. So you imagine, okay, every time, read this sensor, and whenever the temperature goes above this, then turn this light on or turn this fan on or whatever you want to do, right? So you can build things up quite easily. And there's a project that has, they've actually already created them, but they're kind of updating it as part of this XRPL grants funding to have some XRP ledger nodes in there as well, right? So you could do something that says like, okay, every time somebody tweets about this, then send an XRP payment to this account, right? Every time Matt says you're confused, then send an XRP payment to his, swear bucket account or whatever, that kind of thing. And so you could create those quite easily. So that's being developed as well as part of the grants program, which would be pretty cool.
Holy cow, that's a big deal. That's a wow. I don't know what else to say besides wow. I could totally see that being used with IoT. Oh, man.
Yeah, you can imagine, okay, if you send a payment to this account, then unlock the door, right? Or whatever, right? If you send a payment to this account, then turn the plug on that runs the TV for 10 minutes or something. You could very easily kind of wire those things up together using Node Red.
Oh, man. Node Red is the name. Hold on, I got to write that down. That's the name of the project?
Yeah, search for Node Red, and that will take you to the main site that kind of shows you all of the kind of stuff you can do. And if you look on xrplgrants.org and click on the menu item at the top that says grantees, there's a whole list of the projects that were funded as part of round 1, wave 1, as we called it. And I think if you just search for Node Red in there, you'll find the project and the details of what they're doing.
Okay. Yeah, I've been on that site. Man, that just reminds me of Twilio when it first started, and then everything just got so easy.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to using that on the Twitch streams. Demoing how easy it is to kind of wire some of this stuff up, especially with some IoT stuff. That could be a lot of fun.
I wonder if my company we use Twilio for stuff. Don't go there, but it started off as I was trying to integrate XRP Ledger and Twilio, and then we pivoted because people gave us money, or started buying the service. And I'd like to ultimately kind of pivot back towards XRP Ledger, and I wonder if I'll check that out. Thank you for making me aware.
Have you seen the Christmas tree that's running? There's a Christmas tree on the XRP Ledger written by the guy who did some community. So if you pay to a certain account, I think it's like half an XRP or one XRP, it'll switch the lights on and off. It's quite cool.
Really? Oh man, dude, I can't keep up with everything. What was that Christmas? What was it again?
Just search on Twitter for XRP IoT tree, and it should come out.
XRP IoT tweet. Okay, hang on. Let me write that down too.
I really should get him on the Twitch stream for a Christmas themed show.
Oh man, that would be awesome, especially if you had a video feed.
Anyway, folks, I've got to drop off, but thanks, Karma, for hosting this. It's been great.
Yeah, I'm trying to do these daily. I don't want to talk price. I don't want to talk current news. I want to talk technology and what's going on. I don't know everything, but I've had really wonderful people show up, as you today. So I appreciate you jumping in. FOMO you as well. I'm happy to stay on for another little bit. If we want to call it quits, whatever. If people have other questions, speak up and let's continue the chat.
I just have a question, and all this talk about hooks and so on and so forth, and they're not as functional as like a smart contract, but you have Flare coming on board, like bringing smart contracts to XRP. So I guess hooks will still have a purpose in a sense, obviously, but like, what's the point of developing so much on hooks when you're going to have smart contracts with Flare?
So I'm going to beat around the bush here. Some things are kept, it's preferable to keep all on layer one. And with hooks, effectively, FOMO, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can only trigger transaction types that are native to XRP Ledger versus, and this gets even more interesting and like opens up more thinking. You can connect, say, a smart contract on Flare to a wallet and a hook on XRP Ledger that then triggers a cascade of XRP Ledger transactions, or you can stack hooks up too. So it's not just one type of transaction. You can trigger a series of transactions. And so then you have both the sort of layer one XRP Ledger hooks kind of smart contract ability, coupled with the anything you can do with an Ethereum, EVM or Ethereum with a smart contract on Flare, and you can tie the two together, which at that point I feel like effectively anything's possible. I don't know. I'm thinking about this stuff actively, but I'm not.
Yeah, that's
I'm not.
That's also my take. Is you'll be able to trigger actions from the XRP ledger itself through Flare, whatever Flare is connected to, either through its own smart contracts that are run on Flare, or on another smart contract enabled chain that it supports. So for instance, you'll be able to write a smart contract that does, I don't know, what's a chain that hasn't got on Dogecoin, right? So you'll be able to run a contract that does certain executions on Dogecoin, but you'll be able to trigger all of that from the XRP ledger itself. You wouldn't have to physically go and convert it yourself to Doge and then do XYZ and then bring it back. You'll be able to run whatever action you want from the XRP ledger itself. So it's basically like putting feelers out there or connecting all the other chains back into the XRP ledger itself. And then again, you only pay, 12 drops per action. So yeah, changes a lot.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Well, that's an excellent. And I've got a meeting literally about this topic with somebody next week. If you can connect the hooks, and the Flare network has a particularly interesting and valuable functionality in that it can connect multiple blockchains. So what is it now? XRP Ledger, Doge, Litecoin, ADA. I'm sure BTC will come along at some point. Ethereum. And so you could have hooks circulate back and forth between like the Flare network, the XRP ledger, the Flare network, the Doge network, back to the Flare network, back to XRP ledger, back to Litecoin. Like you could really create a rather complex series of transactions, and you know, with the logic that Flare enables in the middle, because Flare is kind of the network that's connecting all the networks. That makes sense. I'm just sort of thinking out loud, so I might be off base. I don't know.
I still want to see some of the Flare community kind of come forward from the developer point of view. Most of them have been involved with the FTSOs, building out their, what do you call it, their decks, or the way that you manage the AMM at the end of the day. But I'd like to see some more Flare, not community projects, right, coming from Flare, which would be nice to kind of then be able to look back at like how they're integrating and working with the Flare network itself. I know it's still all pretty new, but that's like one thing that's on my radar. So if you spot that, please flag me.
I believe they're beginning to invest in some community engagement. I think at this point they're just trying to get it built. I mean, I'm looking in from the outside. I have no idea, but I think that they're getting there. I mean, shoot, Songbird's only been up for what, a month or two? Or a month? 6 weeks, something like that. And we still don't even have F assets on Songbird. And wasn't there a third functionality that was going to get put up the Songbird and tested out before they actually run into production with the Flare network?
Yeah, that's all still very new.
So does hooks, wouldn't that technically enable, I guess, like a token bridge for issued currencies on the XRPL to be able to bridge over to, let's say, Flare?
Yeah, I believe so, if I understand your question right.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud as all. So how would the I guess with the contract call on the Flare side, you'd have to have some account that's I guess going to be burning the gas for the contract call, right?
Well, the connection between the two networks is going to go likely run through an agent. So the agent would have an account on both XRP Ledger and Flare network. You can build whatever business logic you want into the smart contract on the Flare network. Whatever yields out of that execution can then send instructions through the agent account on Flare to the agent's account on XRP Ledger. You know, that could execute on the XRP Ledger. Theoretically, I guess, that could execute to a receiving account that has a hook that could then do other things and then come back to the Flare network, and then through that account go to like another blockchain.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I guess I was not thinking in the agent paradigm between the two. But yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, so thank you for inviting me up, by the way. But I was just to what you were saying. So between like the Flare and the XRP Ledger, you essentially wouldn't even need an agent on both sides, because the protocols that is being built out for Flare will essentially make Flare a DAO. So the network itself could communicate with the XRP Ledger, and then the XRP Ledger has the ability to create IOUs and escrow. So if you could just write a smart contract on Flare, which could then just have the ability to communicate with the XRP Ledger and create a escrow account on the XRP Ledger, you essentially don't even need an agent at that point, or at least a person or a centralized agent at that point, I should say.
Well, the smart contract would be acting as an agent. The agent role doesn't disappear. I think of it as the same as, I don't know how familiar you are with Interledger Protocol.
Of course.
But you have... I'm sorry?
Yeah, of course. And so I was actually going to get to that too, where it would depend on what type of transaction you would need to make in the first place, because if you bring in the interledger protocol, I mean, the ability to do atomic swaps is pretty much everything anyway.
In some sense, it is extremely important. But in interledger protocol and like the architecture, there's a role for a connector, which is something I'm very interested in. And so I view the agent, sitting between, say, XRP Ledger and Flare, or Doge and Flare, or Litecoin and Flare. That agent is, I'm a financial guy, so I think in those terms. So that agent is basically a connector or a market maker or a bridge. It's somebody. It's a contract or an entity that basically has a foot in both, ledgers. So has one foot in XRP Ledger, one foot in the Flare network. And so when people engaging in the market, that the connector, market maker, agent, whatever term you want to use, it's the same functionality. When somebody wants to engage in that market for whatever reason, that market maker is there to help liquidity flow, from the XRP Ledger to Flare, or from Flare to XRP Ledger. And yeah, I mean,
so essentially,
I'm a visual.
No,
see it in
you're
my
right
head.
though, but essentially, what Flare is trying to do is just to give that ability in a decentralized manner. Is really the big thing that they're creating, right? Because we have AMA, we have automated market makers already, like things like Uniswap and other protocols. But when I look at those, I still see centralization in a stronghold. So with the ability that Flare will be able to give, it'll at least be in a decentralized manner for the most part.
Kind of. I mean, I'm not going to lie. As a finance guy, I have a problem with the AMMs, and I don't know exactly how to articulate it. I feel like the impermanent loss is an expression of the problem that my gut just says this isn't the final solution. I've personally not interacted with them because it just makes me uncomfortable. I know David Schwartz, or Joel Katz, whatever you want to call him, he's said that he's got something up his sleeve about automated market making, I think, on XRP Ledger, where you don't have to hold both sides of the market. And that would be, from a finance guy's point of view, revolutionary. Because go back old school, right? When there was humans on the New York Stock Exchange. And you've probably seen video of the guy sitting in the booth and everybody's screaming and yelling at him and he's throwing, okay, that guy's called a specialist. And a specialist, much like an AMM, holds exactly the same function, holds inventory on both sides of the market. So the specialist is going to have, say, some GE stock and some US dollars. Impermanent loss back in the day would have if it got too high, would put a specialist out of business. So you have like a Black Tuesday or something, a big crash event or a big market event could go up. I mean, going up could kill a specialist too. And they're out of business because their book gets too lopsided. If they've got something figured out where they can allow you being anybody, to provide liquidity only on one side of the market without taking the impermanent loss risk, I can tell you from a financial markets point of view, that's like a revolutionary thing. It's not something, I mean, it's very subtle. That's freaking revolutionary, like big time. That's like when they first came out, because initially when XRP Ledger started, XRP was not a bridge currency. There weren't synthetic order books, which now they call auto bridging. That stuff didn't exist in the beginning. So when they came out with that, I mean, big deal. If they can come out with a one-sided, effectively AMM, I can't overstate the significance of that. That's big. That's huge.
Every single sidechain could be one of those networks.
Oh, the federated sidechains is another one. I mean, that's another. Dude, Ripple has blown my mind so many times, not so many times, 3 or 4 times. Federated side chains, that's not really a mind blower. Also, extremely significant. Extremely significant because that gives you your horizontal scaling, which is just, I mean, I don't know, I'm speechless, I guess. Horizontal scaling is critical. Like that's, I mean, it's not critical, but it opens up so much opportunity that it's like, you can't put the cats out of the bag. There's nothing that can't be done at that point.
Limitless, essentially. Well, how else do you have the entire human population, attached to one ledger, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the right thinking. The federated side chains to me means horizontal scaling. The hooks means sort of complexity, feedback loop type smart contracts, which I could make an argument are more powerful than Turing complete smart contracts. You've got Flare Network, which is effectively like a sidechain with the Turing complete. So you have both options for smart contracts, both the hooks and the feedback loop methods and the sort of arguably Turing or not Turing, whatever, Turing completeness. You got the federated side chains with the horizontal scaling. I mean, it's really amazing. I don't know what else to say.
Full financial suite of technologies that could run every country in the world on it.
I guess I'd go with Chris Larson's term, Internet of Value. It's an internet of networks of value on different networks of value. Like that was the goal from the beginning. Obviously, quite a task to take on, but in my judgment, they've done an exceptional job.
Been a long time in the making for sure. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna change the world, you're not gonna do it in one day. This is big time stuff. When I first saw Ripple and like their mission, I just, as a finance person, I was like, holy cow. Because the technology, even back then, you could tell had the potential. But they've brought in so much more potential, like with all these things we're talking about, hooks, side chain or federated side chains, ILP, escrow, payment channels.
Can't forget Codius. Have you ever heard of Codius?
Oh yeah, Codius is I sort of think they're using Codius on RippleNet. I can't confirm that. That could be completely BS. But I have a feeling that they're sort of in some way, shape, or form they're using Codius on RippleNet.
I'm pretty sure suite of technologies they offer. But I mean, ILP, Codius, and the XRP ledger can essentially run all autonomous systems as well for transactional data, because eventually we'll have like autonomous vehicles, taxis, things like that. How will payments have to be done? So everything will have to be running off of some sort of connected ledger.
Well, part of the beauty to me of both Interledger Protocol and Codius is that there is no ledger. You have the decentralization, but there's no ledger. So 2 things. One, that gets rid of the transaction cost. Because if you have a distributed ledger, you have to have some sort of transaction cost. 2, like you still have the decentralization, but you don't have the cost. I guess those are the 2 points. You have the decentralization and you don't have the cost. And there is no like ledger to even attack. So if you're looking at, say, I want to, tear down the world because I'm some sort of goofy anarchist, you can attack a ledger. Like that's kind of a point of if you take the ledger down, then you can take the system down. But with Codius and Interledger Protocol, there is no single point of attack.
Yeah, I mean, they're just a series of protocols for the most part. I mean, Codius has smart contract capability, but yeah, exactly. Which is why we have the XRP ledger, because all the transactions still have to be on some sort of ledger, so they'll just use that as the transactional data, in my opinion, of course.
Yeah, I think you're on the right. I think that's correct. The thing with The thing is, at some point, though, you do need some kind of a ledger because you do have to actually move some value. The value has to be, these are all accounting systems. I got ridiculed early on for just saying, hey, guys, this is just accounting stuff, right? And people are like, no, it's a breakthrough. But no, at some point, you do actually need a ledger because you need to move the value. And the value has to go from account A to account B, and that has to be accounted for on a ledger. So Interledger Protocol doesn't have a ledger. Codius can do smart contracts like Ethereum, but it doesn't have a ledger. You need the ledger in there. There's a step in like the logic flow that requires a ledger, and that's the step. That's why I think they've focused so much on being, quote, the settlement layer. The settlement layer is where the value moves, and that's really all it needs to do.
Yeah, because
all this other stuff can be done at higher levels in the architecture, like stack.
And to your point, the reason that you would 100% need that ledger layer, the transactional data layer, is for security, because you could just spam the networks if there wasn't some sort of cost associated with it, at least in the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that was the original with David, Jed, and Brito and Larson. Like, I think that was the original use case or utility of XRP, was an anti-spam functionality. But then it took them a while, but eventually they articulated the bridge currency functionality. And then the finance side of me was like, oh, buddy. Oh, man. This just upped the game. And they've stuck with that, which I think they should. It's a fundamentally sound use case. It adds more utility on top of the anti-spam utility. Yeah. It's a brilliant team. I mean, I've enjoyed watching the Ripple guys. One of my biggest regrets is I didn't join them, early on, but I had committed to another company at the time. So I tried to stick with that, but that didn't work out. So here I am talking to you guys about how brilliant they've been.
Hey, listen, they're always hiring.
Oh, I've applied. They haven't ever responded, so whatever.
Are you local from where one of their offices are?
No, I'm in Florida.
I was going to say, just
but
knock on the door,
I mean, I would have if I was out there. I hosted a Ripple meetup back in, I think it was 14, at my house. And one of the guys, he had just gotten hired. He hadn't started yet. I won't name him just for the sake of it. But he came over with probably a dozen, 20 people. People came from like Atlanta, from Miami. Like, people came from all over. And it was really a wonderful time. I mean, it seems like forever ago, and things were so early in comparison to where they are now. But yeah, I mean, it was nice to meet with a bunch of people, and I might go to this Miami meetup, I guess. Matt, who was on earlier, Hammertoe, tweeted something earlier today. He might go to the Miami meetup, and I was like, I can drive down there. That sounds fun.
So like a little meetup going on? Somebody's personally hosting it, or like a little convention?
I don't know. I looked at it briefly. It showed like 30 seats available or something. I'm not sure. I spent literally 60 seconds looking at it, and I was like, I called my buddy, one of my college buddies, and I was like, yo, are you going to be around? He was out camping, though, so I was like, call me back later. I was like, yo, you going to be around? Like, I'll come down. I haven't seen him in a couple of years. It's like, I might come down to this thing and hang out with you, and I don't know. I don't really know. I spent 60 seconds looking at it.
Hey, if you go, you can host the space while you're there.
That's actually a good idea. Yeah.
Bring us all along with you. I was actually mad at myself. I didn't go to the NYC NFT because I figured it was just going to be such a mess with all like the ETH kids, I should really say, because they're very young. I don't know, unfortunately, a lot of the NFT enthusiasts in the space right now. But David Schwartz was there. I was mad at myself. I should have went. Could have totally seen him, said hi to him.
Yeah, I have a similar feeling. I didn't realize the Apex thing was going to be so big. I mean, I know like half the people that were on stage. I didn't. I don't know why I underestimated how big it was going to. It was a. I should have gone out there. I mean, I could have flown out to freaking Vegas. Like, tickets are nothing.
Does anybody in the space have any questions about anything XRP related?
Yeah, I was about to say, if we're just gonna talk like this kind of stuff, I might kill it.
Are you guys going to be involved in the mint tomorrow on Songbird for Sparkles? Have you heard about it, Karma?
No, I don't know about either.
Sparkle's the marketplace that's being built on Flare eventually. When Flare launches, they're releasing NFTs on Songbird for the time being, and they're going to give rights or voting rights, I think, for their DAO that they're going to eventually build.
Why would they be just giving voting rights?
So if you own the NFTs for their platform, I guess it's going to be acting, or I think you get tokens for owning the NFTs. So the tokens will then give you voting rights in the DAO that they're going to build for their network, or not network, for their DApp.
I'm not sure that fully clicked with me.
It's like essentially they build their own little DAO platform, and so it just gives you voting rights on decisions that would be made inside of the platform itself. Instead of giving you like voting rights inside of an entire network, it's more of like a smaller grand scheme. It just kind of gives you voting rights inside of whatever potentially would be going on inside of their marketplace, because they're building an NFT marketplace.
So would that be analogous to the Flare Finance guys given governance token or governance tokens governance capacity within their
exactly. So like for an example, say when you list a token, if you've minted it and you put it onto Sparkles, you probably get some sort of royalty, right? Maybe in the system, people could vote if they wanted that royalty to be 5 or 10%. So everybody would have the ability to vote, would be able to put their say in. But yeah, you were spot on with using the Flare Finance as an analogy.
Yeah, I remember a few years back that, I don't want to say who, but there were some people I was talking to, and I was like, dude, the governance stuff is going to be, it was a problem that hadn't been solved yet. To me, when I see like Flare Finance, what you just said, some other projects, I don't know if it's the final solution, but I'm feeling like the governance problem, the distributed governance problem might be relatively solved, at least like in a 1.0 version.
Yep, 100%. And with the future proof of these distributed autonomous organizations, these networks, or the ones that are built well, should essentially be running themselves in a decentralized manner, where the only people who can change things on the network are those who have say in the network, which are voting rights. But there's always that question: is how do you get the voting rights, right? And then it comes down to like the distribution of things, or like tokens or NFTs or whatever is going to give the voting rights on the network. I think that's the most difficult part, because all of these networks we see, like even the first DeFi token, Compound, for example, they have a great DAO, right, and a great concept that they built, but there's still just such a large percentage of the tokens that are held in a centralized manner. It doesn't matter. It's centralized at that point.
Well, let me play devil's advocate, because if you look at the last chat that I recorded, and this one's being recorded too, just for anyone that's on here, it was a lot. We had a wonderful gentleman on who's quite knowledgeable about regulation. Where I'm really concerned about these distributed governance things, and I'm only concerned because I don't know. So obviously unknowns equate to risk. How are regulators going to regulate these, projects like a Flare Finance? Like, if governance is distributed, how do they're going to get their teeth in somewhere?
100%.
I don't believe that I don't know if maybe they get their teeth in on the layer 1, and then the layer 2s kind of functionally fall under the umbrella.
So one thing Wyoming did is they enacted that you could register DAOs as companies. Now, the thing behind that is that you must register an LLC behind that, right? So like, if Flare registers, I guess, the Flare DAO, right? Like the Flare what do they have? Foundation would have to be like the LLC behind that. So if something happened to that DAO, that somebody is still held responsible for it. So because you're right, you do make a good point, and especially that. How do you trust somebody who built something that's completely decentralized? What if something bad happens? Like, who is there to point the finger at that point? So I think Wyoming had a good idea in that concept, but then there's also, it's still kind of centralized in that manner that there's still somebody to point the finger to, right?
Yeah, I looked at doing a Wyoming. I've got a project I want to do, and I've looked at doing a Wyoming corporation, and then it was all just too fuzzy for me to pull the trigger on. But I think it's quite reasonable. I mean, hey, look at it. Like Ethereum has the Ethereum Foundation. XRP Ledger has Ripple. Flare has the Flare Foundation. Like at some point, there are humans behind these networks. And I'll say this, and this is an unpopular opinion, but I remember back when Ethereum was first starting up, and there was all this, quite frankly, BS about trustlessness, and there's nothing trustless. It's a BS concept. You're trusting the code. Somebody wrote the code. Whether it was an AI that wrote the code or a human that wrote the code or a group of people or a foundation, it's just nonsense. I'm not buying it. And so I think where I was involved in several arguments when a lot of these concepts were getting formulated, or conversations, threads, what have you. The whole idea of trustlessness, I mean, I did a video on, I kind of have a stupid YouTube channel, but I did a video about what is money, or like what even is money, I think is what I called it. One of the points I made in that video was people like sort of wishful thinking, in my estimation. They're like, oh, if we just got rid of all the debt, then like the world would be great. Well, if you get rid of all the debt, then you just got rid of all the money. Because cash at the end of the day, like a piece of paper cash in your pocket, that's an asset in your pocket, but that's a liability on whatever country you're in on your central bank's balance sheet. So you can't, which means it's a debt to the central bank. And when you have money in the bank, that's an asset in your bank account, but it's a liability to the bank's balance sheet because it's on the liability side. So this is the whole double entry accounting thing, and you can't have, it doesn't work. You can't get rid of debt, you can't get rid of liability, and since you can't get rid of liabilities unless you want to get rid of all the assets, then you can't get rid of trust. Because you have to trust the balance sheet. Like if you don't trust look at what's going on in Afghanistan. All right, their central bank freaking collapsed. None of the gold reserves that they had on their asset side are worth anything. They're not going to get it. None of their foreign reserves that they had in all the European and banks all over wherever they had reserves, foreign reserves at, they're not getting it. Which means the paper cash is backed by nothing. It's a currency collapse. So the whole idea of this trustlessness stuff is BS. So, and I'm saying all of that just to basically say the regulators are going to have to put their teeth into whatever balance sheet the liabilities that back the assets sit on. Does that make any sense, or am I out of the world? I can go that way. Sorry, I'll shut up.
No, you're good, man. You're good. Listen, most people don't realize that the entire world is based off of a debt-based system. And I personally think we're moving towards an asset-based system right now. I think that's...
Well, yeah, but you got it this way. XRP is an asset of the XRP ledger. So the XRP ledger is effectively a clearinghouse, if you know what a clearinghouse is. And a clearinghouse basically backs all the different traders' trades. So then the traders can trade without worrying about like who's the counterparty. And if you'll also notice, Ripple backed off of calling XRP a counterparty-less asset
Yes, it did.
because it's the ledger that's the counterparty.
From the words of David Schwartz, all you would have to do is collateralize the ledger.
Can you collateralize the ledger with debt?
Yes, you can collateralize the ledger with anything.
Oh, that was really the only.
Well,
That was the only question I had.
you can issue. Sorry, you can issue any asset on the ledger, but XRP is backed up by the ledger. So, like, if XRP ledger somehow miraculously completely crashed and disappeared, XRP would disappear, just like that. I mean, I don't think there's any chance of that occurring, but yeah.
Only if the world has a complete shutdown. I think we have worse things to deal with, though, at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you're on the right track.
Any other question?
Yeah, I got one. When are we getting our flare? Wasn't that supposed to be airdropped?
Yeah, so they did one thing wrong right off the bat. They gave a date. You never give dates. It's a big thing I think they've learned. But Songbird is live, which is basically it's basically better than Ethereum 2.0 is going to be, right? So a flare will be built up of 3 essential protocols.
Okay, all right.
So what we have right now is the first set of protocols, and we're missing 2 of them, which make it flare. So we need the state connector protocol and the F asset protocol. Now, without getting into those 2 things, essentially when Songbird has that, it will be what flare is going to be. All we have right now is the Ethereum virtual machine. So that Ethereum virtual machine contracts working with the FBA consensus while utilizing the TSO protocol, which is time series oracles, which is just gives the network the ability to bring real world data onto the network, right? So we're waiting for a couple protocols to be built and put on until Flare can actually launch. But we basically have like the baby version of it right now, the canary network, as everybody's calling it, or the test network, which I really don't like calling it.
So when those two things you said are like up and live, is that when like we're gonna get Flare dropped in our Coinbase account? I don't know how the airdrop works.
So if you had it at a centralized exchange, the only way you would end up getting it is when the exchange dropped it to you. Now, every exchange just came out and said they are 100% still going to be handing out the Flare, especially Coinbase and Binance. But obviously Songbird was kind of like an unknown at first for, I guess, a lot of the exchanges. So I know some of them, like the big guys like Coinbase and Binance, still have not handed it out.
Cool. Thanks for explaining that, man. Appreciate it.
Of course. But if you haven't, if you are entitled to your Songbird, like if you were going to get Flare, you're entitled to Songbird, please, feel free to message Coinbase or whoever houses your crypto and be like, hey guys, feel like releasing my crypto by any chance?
Okay. I'll send them an email. Thank you.
There you go.
But that's if you caught the screenshot on 12/12 of last year.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, if you're entitled to Songbird, you're entitled to Flare. I can't see your full name, but Death R did a great job of explaining that. I don't think Flare's even going to consider launching their production network, which would be Flare Network, until they've got all 3 functions testing and live and probably even running for a period of time on Songbird. And then we'll probably see the production network go live. That's just me guessing.
I don't know. I feel like they're waiting on XRP, in my opinion.
The lawsuit. I don't know why everybody says that. I hear it. I hear it very often too. Flare and Songbird. I mean, they're, other than using the FBA consensus, which is just the same consensus algorithm that the XRP ledger runs off of, or runs, I should say, and maybe having a grant, or a donation from Ripple to build Flare. There's really no connection between the two. Like Ripple doesn't have actually anything their hands in Flare at all. And I don't, the lawsuit isn't with XRP. It's with the way that they say that it's the way that Ripple had marketed the way that they sold XRP. So I don't know why it would have anything to do with it.
I agree, and I've built some software. I've created a software company or time or two, and I don't see Flare given, any care about whatever happens with XRP Ledger. They have their hands full. That project is so big. I don't think they're looking externally. I think they're internally focused, and I'm just guessing. I don't know, but I think they're trying to do the best job possible. They can't screw it up, right? There's no margin for error. That's why there's Songbird, right? If there's any margin for error, it needs to occur on Songbird.
But
So until they fully tested out all of these mechanisms on Songbird and given a chance for screw up, that's a real money screw up, I don't see him taking the production network live.
I'm still curious what's going to happen with myself personally, as I'm in Ontario and Binance suspended all activities in Ontario, and I mistakenly had all my XRP in Binance. So I'm still curious to this day if I'm going to get my Flare.
Whoa, say that again? That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound good.
So Binance suspended all action in Ontario due to some legislative.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the exact reason why they suspended action in Ontario, but they said close all accounts by December 31st. So if Flare doesn't go live by December 31st, I'm curious if I'll get my Flare.
Have you contacted them personally about it?
Oh, to contact Binance is
I know it's a pain, but
is a nightmare, and I get generic responses saying like we've closed all positions in Ontario, right? Like it's generic responses, and they won't answer my Flare questions.
Oh man, because I know that they had a form. Because I remember when this happened on Ontario, the legislation literally came out and they banned Binance. So Binance is just running because they don't want to have to deal with that.
Yeah, exactly.
If you can get a hold of them, though, they did have a form where you could give them an address and they would just set it up for you that it just gets, directly deposited into that address. They'll just send it there. But, taking it actually from their exchange, if it's past the 31st, you're right. I don't know. It's a very great question.
Whew. Yeah, that sounds tricky.
Yeah, so I haven't heard of that form. That form is interesting, and I'll contact them. But like I said, I tried contacting them twice, and it was a nightmare.
As most people usually say.
how do you guys feel about that they already released 15% to some people on BitTrue already? Like,
what do you mean? Oh, for Flare? You're talking about the Flare IOU, right?
Yes.
So that's an IOU. So essentially what you're buying on BitTrue is exactly what it is. It's an IOU. It's like a representation of the Flare token. So it's not actually Flare. You can't even take it off of the exchange. But when Flare launches, all of those tokens you bought will then become tokens, and you can then take them off the exchange if you want. Now, there's also an IOU on Poloniex, which it's a little bit different of a representation. So whatever you buy on Poloniex, which is an IOU, you only get 15% of that up front, and then the next over the course of the next like 23 to 32 months, just how Flare is going to do their distribution. But BitTrue it's not real. It's just like a paper copy.
That's my understanding, yeah.
But if Flare comes out and it's trading at like $1, $2, and you got in at BitTrue at 25 cents, they're going to credit you those tokens, and you still basically have a DCA of 25 cents. So it really depends on if you think it's going to be a higher price token when it comes out. I don't know. I personally think it's a little risky. I don't like IOUs in that sense.
When Flare does come out, do
On
you
it.
think it's going to be on Coinbase as well? Because they had XRP before.
That is a good question. I wish I could answer it.
Okay.
Well, some of us didn't buy the IOU. It was dropped to us on BitTrue, like the 50%, the 15%.
Wait, so are you saying that BitTrue gave you your Flare tokens already, or
Well,
are you talking about Songbird?
the IOU. No, I had the 15% IOU.
Well, it can't give you the Flare tokens because the network's not live, so it doesn't exist. So that's not even possible.
Yeah, do you mean the Songbird token, right? Is that what you mean, the SGB?
No, I had access to the IOU, the 15% in, was it this? I think they gave it December or January. But yeah, I had it in my account and I did sell some of them.
It's interesting. And you,
That doesn't that mean? I mean, sorry, I can't see the rest of your name, Death R,
Ranger.
but you definitely Death Ranger. Okay, doesn't I mean that would mean that they allowed her to sell the IOU on the IOU market,
essentially,
right?
it's what it sounds like. Is they gave her. You must. I guess if you had your snapshot taken in BitTrue, I guess. But I never heard that from anybody else so far, at least.
No, it's out there. It's true. Some of us did sell some of our 15% IOUs, and it was distributed.
Sorry, hi guys. Sorry, my name's Shaba, and I do agree with her because on BitTrue they did actually distribute some Flare tokens at one point. I think it was at 15%. That was about 3 months ago. Probably more than that.
Wow, that's interesting. So I guess it was just as an IOU then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be the IOU. I mean, until the network's live, the token can't exist. There's no way around that. So it's got to be the IOU. So they must have like an internal ledger or an internal account for like who they're gonna receive Flare on behalf of.
Yep.
And then they're allowing those folks to go ahead and buy and sell and trade before the token exists.
Yes.
And then when the token exists, like close that out, and that'll be the end of the IOUs, and then it'll be like real Flare.
Yes, because at one point they tried to do a huge community thing and have people vote to see if they wanted to, don't quote me, like burn some kind of percentage of it. And then whatever you had, they would calculate the whole burning thing.
Interesting.
So I'm helping someone. Yeah, that is interesting. I'm helping somebody set up some crypto stuff tomorrow morning, and a lot of this talk. And who was the guy from Canada? Like, man, that sounds like a predicament.
That was Alpha.
I hope that in your favor, but it might not. But self-custody, and then I'll shut up. But self-custody, like,
Yeah. I completely. It was a fault of mine doing it through Binance. It's on my ledger now, and I'm not tech savvy, so that's why I put it to Binance because it just seemed easier that way. But I completely take fault for that.
The guy that lost or didn't get the snapshot taken because of Binance in Ontario, is it possible to just travel to another province and access your account?
That's a good point, but it'll be a matter of, like, they took the snapshot. It's just a matter of, will they release it to me since I'm in Ontario? Like, maybe they'll release it to me and I won't be able to withdraw, and I could use a VPN to withdraw it. I'm not sure.
I'm in Nova Scotia, and I've had to use with customer support on Binance a couple times, and I've never had any issues with them with anything. They've actually been pretty helpful, and I've talked to other people, and I know that's like uncommon to hear, but I've actually have a pretty good experience with them.
Was Binance participating in the snapshot?
Yes, they were.
They got the I think the other than Coinbase, they have the most amount of Songbird also being held right now. Something like 32 million Songbird. Or sorry, 32 million.
Nice. Because I was like for me, the only exchange I would trust right now would be a BitTrue with anything to do with XRPL.
Oh, they're built on the XRP ledger. They better represent the community.
Are they actually built on XRPL? I didn't know that.
Yeah. They just basically, when you're using BitTrue, it's just a nice UI. They're built right into the protocol of the XRP ledger DEX.
So is that kind of like what is it, GateHub?
Same thing. Yep, GateHub, and I'm sure they have a whole bunch of their own proprietary software that they use as well. But the DEX itself is it's utilizing the XRP ledger. Same thing, Sologenic, XRP Toolkit, just nice UIs.
Yeah, I got to give it out to Sologenic for such an easy snapshot and airdrop. I truly enjoyed that.
Dude, this whole conversation started off because no one was saying anything, and yesterday I spent reading about Sologenic. I'm highly impressed. And yeah, it seems like they are built more or less on top of the XRP Ledger DEX. I don't know if they would count as a federated sidechain, but there's definitely some proprietary software to the side of XRP Ledger. But I think they are, if I was reading I was reading their white paper and a bunch of stuff. It seems like they're built right on top of XRP Ledger. And they're using the markets and the order book functionality of XRP Ledger. Does anybody know better?
Nope,
I don't know.
100%.
Yeah, that's correct.
If you want a nice little watch, Tony from Thinking Crypto did an interview with the CEO of Sologenic. I think it was a week ago or so. It was like 3 videos ago.
Yeah, watched it. It was great.
Yeah, it was really great. He's a good. He actually talked about a lot more stuff than had previously talked about in the years past. So I'm glad he talked more about what was going on with the project and the different direction they took with teams, because they split it up into 2 different companies. It's technically 2 different LLCs, and I think they did this very intelligently, just in case the SEC ever comes after them, because I look at every single DEX token and I'm like, security, right? Because in most cases, everybody's using those tokens to fund their projects or whatever they're doing. But they built 2 different LLCs, one LLC which has the token attached to it, and the other LLC which they're doing stuff with the DEX for. So they are on top of their game, I tell you.
Well,
yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I saw that, and I had a securities license at one point, and I'm no lawyer or expert, but the splitting it up made perfect sense to me, because one of those organizations is applying for broker-dealer licensing, both in the US, the UK, and Europe. To me, the biggest hurdle at this point, and I know this is like beating a dead horse, but it's regulatory compliance. Like how the technology is there. It's already there. It's how do you structure legally these enterprises to comply with regulations? And it's not like I don't think there's anybody that's legitimate that's trying to skirt regulations, but there has got to be some rules to the road.
Well, in my opinion, that's what's going to happen on December 8th. I don't know if you guys saw my announcement on that, where, who is that face? Well, whatever it is, there's going to be a huge discussion on December 8th. And there's going to be a lot of big CEOs in the crypto industry that's going to be testifying in front of the committee. So I think this is going to be opening up doors for the regulations.
I'd hope so. Whoever I interrupted, feel free to speak up. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. You're good. I was just going to say, them being on top of their game gives me hope that them actually giving a January 22nd date for release of the coins, they'll actually be on top of that date, unlike Flare. But not to hate on Flare, they have their own issues.
And and for the airdrops on the XRP ledger, they better be on top. All we got to do is write a script. I mean, it might take a couple hours for the network to hand out all the tokens, but essentially, if you set up the airdrop correctly on the ledger, it's pretty easy to distribute said tokens. But yes, I agree. Dates are bad. Dates are bad.
Curious how many people actually signed up for the airdrop. It being people amount for coin distribution other than XRP amount. That was a new one for me.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Well, we won't know until December 24th when the snapshot is done.
Oh, it's December 24th.
I got a question on Sologenic. Sorry for interrupting. So we're having the airdrop on the 24th. Is there a time frame? Do we have to be on the? Do we still have to keep holding our Sologenic coins through the whole day of on the 24th, or is there a time frame that it snaps and then people can sell off and still get that airdrop? So I know
think
a lot
it's
of people are gonna sell off.
10 p.m. UTC time, and it's XRP coins that you have to have on the Sologenic.
Oh, okay.
You coins also.
Well, so if you hold solo, you get 5x per one solo is the estimate, right? And if you hold XRP, the estimate was 0.20 for every XRP. So 20%, or for every XRP you get math. For every XRP you hold, you would get a 0.20 of solo.
Nice. Yeah, because I converted my XRP into solo just for that reason, to get like the 5 per solo. But yeah, man, because I know they're adding it on Binance. I think somebody told me that it's going on Binance on the 25th. That's what I heard, but don't quote me on it.
Sorry, Death. Can you repeat that? I thought it was amount of people that join the snapshot get. That's how they decide what gets distributed, not how many XRP tokens you hold.
No, so it'll be how much you hold per. So I think they did it was like 250 million or 200 million for solo holders, and then the same for XRP holders. And depending on how much you hold in your account and how many accounts sign up would be the estimate per how much you're going to get per account.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to transfer all my XRP into that solo app in that case.
Well, I mean, no financial advice. Don't do anything because I said anything, please.
No, 100%. I was under the wrong impression. That's good to know.
Well, listen, solo was like, at least the last time I looked, it went up from, I looked at it 3 weeks ago, and it was at 5 cents. Now it was at like $3 or something, or $2.46. So
yeah, $3 something last I looked.
I have a strong rule. I don't buy things when they're on a green high like that.
Well, so how many XRP is it per solo? Because if it's I guess if you get more than if it's I know it's estimates with the 20% and the 5 solo per 5 airdrop per solo, but if the threshold is below that, if you can get, what would the math be? 5 solo for 1 XRP?
It's possible, yeah. It really just depends on how many people end up signing up and who's holding what at that moment of the snapshot. But yeah, I mean, who knows? You could get 10 solo for every XRP, depending on how many people sign up. No matter what, 200 million solo is getting distributed to XRP holders. So
where do you sign up at?
What'd you say?
You have to set the trust line, which is another reason to speak, because I don't think a lot of the exchanges have enable the setting trust line functionality. So you either got to depend on them, or I don't know.
I heard you could just put it into the Solo Dex app. Can you not?
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you use the Solo Dex app, it automatically sets the trust line somehow.
If you haven't done the trust line, just go on YouTube and they can walk you through it. But make sure you're watching what website you go to, because some people get confused about it. Like, just make sure you're going to the right website when you're setting up your trust line.
Josh, I just had a bad thought. I wonder if, I don't even want to say it. I'm not going to share it in a public.
Oh, you can't do that.
You got to say it now.
Well, I don't want to get screwed. I don't want to give any bad person an idea, basically.
What do you guys think on the Sologenic price? I know it's too early to say, but I've been hearing a lot of 200 and up in the future, maybe.
200? Holy crap. I thought the guy that said 17 to 30 was crazy, but 200.
I can't see that being possible with the market cap it has. Not within
at least not
short
now.
time frame.
I mean, listen, anything is possible in the future, right? But I mean, 15 years from now, a loaf of bread in the United States could cost $200, right? So, like, I have no idea what the future is going to hold.
True that.
Just as a general rule, I try not to talk price in these
100%
chats.
agree.
I think fundamentals are there for Sologenic to have a reasonable valuation, but yeah, people get. I'd rather keep talking about technology. How do we do this? What's going on? How's it going to impact the world? That kind of stuff.
Great statement from Glenn Hutchins. The token and the price are just a distraction. The underlying protocols being built is what's important.
Yeah, I agree. The technology's the biggest investment of it all.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I was reading their white paper yesterday, and I spent a good number of hours looking at their stuff, watching the interview, couple of interviews, I'm very impressed. And I don't say that like lightly. I see I don't know. I'll shut up, but I see a lot of potential.
Did you guys see the crypto.com taking over Staples for 20 years?
I did see that, yeah. They're going to change the name. It's not going to be the Staples Center anymore. It's going to be the Crypto.com Center.
Yeah, and within the first
December
week,
the 1st or December the 8th, something like that.
Yep.
That's the first week
massive.
that investment paid for itself. Take that in.
It was
their
the
price spike.
700. It was the most any like organization or whatever company has paid for to have the leasing rights to an arena name. 700 million. But it's still a good investment. It's being announced on Christmas Day, which is the NBA's most watched day outside the playoffs.
Of course, it's a good investment. It's the world's biggest billboard. Why wouldn't you want that for crypto?
Oh, 100%. I'm just saying it was 700 million and it was the most ever paid. I'm not saying it was a bad investment. It was a good investment. It's a lot of money.
Did you guys remember what happened to Binance Coin? So I went off of that. I'm just gonna buy some crypto.com coins since it's cheap. It might take off with that big promotion. My guess, not financial advice.
The credit card?
No. Oh yeah, the credit card also and crypto.com has their own coin. So I bought into it and it was at 50 cents and it went up almost $1 and then it went obviously a correction on it. But once it gets announced, my biggest guess, it might get a lot of promo and that coin can go very high. But no financial advice, it's just a guess for me.
Did you guys hear about the 8% back on 8% cash back on all purchases, but you need to hold 400K in CRO?
Yeah, I did hear on that.
Have you guys heard of Dodger on Mars?
Yep.
Yeah, I've purchased so far 300 million Dodger on Mars, so it could have a big potential in the future.
I would be very cautious.
What's it?
Trust me.
Yeah, I full disclosure, I hold a little as well.
That's
can. It's a massive show. It's
15 million for
it's risky.
bucks, $150, and then I try to rebuy Shiba Inu 1,300. If Shiba Inu can make it, Dodger on Mars can make it.
The Elon is up like 16,000% or something insane on the year. It just
what we all said. That's what we all said with Shiba. And look,
I'm just okay. Look, I'm not saying that can't happen. I'm saying there's no risk involved. It's a big time show. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
It's got an $800 million market cap. Its name is Doge Lawn Mars. I mean, and that's
Well, it's new, but
it's
it
not
just came
new.
up on the market.
It's not new.
Well, how long are we talking about?
Just go look at all its price history. Like go on CoinMarketCap, hit all price history, see the crazy high like 2-second peak it had earlier this year, and then see the peak that it had again. And it's I mean it's consolidated. Like hey, I hold some. Full disclosure, I'm just saying, you're in a big space and. I think might have been the first thing you said. It's just Doge Lawn Mars. Elon is the ticker symbol. It's a meme coin. There's a ton of risk to it. I mean, definitely don't be like, yeah, I'm gonna put money in this and 100% I'm gonna see a positive return. That's all I'm saying. That's because that's far from the truth.
I mean, I have some casino money and I'm playing with Shiba. I mean, like a lot of Shiba. Just because, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. I hold Elon, which is what he's talking about. I hold some as well, but it's like you said, you're at a casino when you're playing, you holding those things.
Sheep has potential. Shibarium's coming out. They get their own blockchain. It's gonna take.
What do you guys think on the lawsuit of XRP by next year? Do you think we might get a win? I know it's a show. I know it's all just them trying to get us out, but what do you guys think on that?
Yeah, that's already a done deal.
I think it might be like kind of the ultimate backfire. I mean, the stuff that the XRP army has dug up on Ethereum and these guys' connections with the SEC is pretty damning. And one of the first thoughts I had, so some of my business partners are securities attorneys. And when I told them about the case, they said, well, it's going to be at least a year or so. And I was pretty disappointed to hear that. I believed them. They've turned out to be thus far accurate. But I think
for me, I think everybody should be watching what's happening on December 8th with a lot of these crypto CEOs. I think I honestly believe that this is going to be starting that whole regulations, and it has to do with the case with Ripple and the SEC.
Well, the good thing to me that I said out the gate, and it goes in line with what we just said, there's going to be a time limit. I mean, you can't keep a legal case open forever. So whether the end of the case is, 6 months ago, yesterday, 6 months from today, I don't know, but there's going to be an end. And it might end up that XRP is the only crypto with actual clarity in the U.S. Because Gensler said that he's like backtracking on the Bitcoin and XRP have clarity.
What about the possibility that the SEC, to me it looks like they're dead in the water. What if they're like, is it a possibility it's where they're like, we're dropping the case? Because that I feel like that would be bad too.
Could happen at any moment.
Yeah, and XRP trends, if you could elaborate on, because I don't know much or anything actually about what was going on December 8th. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
On December 8th, so what's happening is they're going to be inviting some crypto CEOs to talk about a lot. Actually, they're even covering climate issues with crypto. There's going to be a lot of things that's going to be happening on December 8th. But in my opinion, USA doesn't have enough time to be screwing around with this lawsuit because everybody else is way ahead of them. So in my opinion, there's no way they can go beyond next summer. Like there's no possible way that they can take that long because they know time is ticking, and USA been sleeping on this for the last 5 years. So I think something has to happen by the summer of next year. Either the SEC is forced to settle because they need regulations. There's no way they can get ahead. USA can get ahead with crypto without setting these tracks. So what's happening is this committee will be discussing things like climate issues in crypto, gas fees, the use cases of crypto, especially they're also going to be discussing stable coins, DeFi, and also social media influence. And they targeted Twitter in this conversation. So that's what's going to happen with this committee on December 8th.
I think so. Is this a congressional hearing?
This was announced by Maxine Waters. So if you guys go to the financial services, wait, hold on, let me look. financialservices.house.gov. And then you guys search for the meetings on December 8th. There's going to be a hearing on digital assets. And they're going to be discussing the challenges with crypto and financial crypto innovation in the United States. So I think this is going to be it. I think this is going to be setting the tracks for all crypto. They don't have time. They don't have 1 year. This Ripple case needs to close ASAP if they want to stay in the game. If they're not going to close it by next year, then USA is going to lose world currency dominancy, in my opinion.
No, I couldn't agree more with your opinion. Also, on December 6th, the SEC has to actually answer and pony up a whole bunch of evidence that they've been they've been instructed to give, but they haven't coughed it up. And, excuse me, I'm doing something for a second. So it's ironic to me, or maybe it's more serendipitous, that this congressional hearing on the 8th is 2 days after the SEC's deadline to cough up the evidence and answer the questions that they've been not answering. And then to the point that somebody asked about if the SEC withdraws, I saw John Deaton talk about that as a potential, and I think that's like the worst possible outcome, because to me that's like a punt to Congress, and I don't mean to sound bad, but I don't have a whole lot of faith in Congress doing anything. But if they withdraw, then they basically don't answer any of the questions, and we're right back where we were before the lawsuit, except we've gone through a whole year of price suppression.
But also keep in mind that somebody dug up a document or email maybe about last week. It was just really recently that they asked the SEC if, Ethereum was a security, and they didn't clarify that. They said no. So I think they're setting the tracks and they're getting their stuff straight, because there is a document.
Yeah, I don't think Ethereum's out of the. I don't think Ethereum's in the clear. I think they acted like it, and the price action acted like it, but I don't think they're really legitimately in the clear. That's why I said this lawsuit might be like the ultimate backfire. XRP might end up is the only asset with actual legal clarity.
It's all a show, guys. It's all a show.
Guys, I had a nice time talking. I have to eat something, but I had a nice time. Now follow me if you guys want to, and I know there's a lot of followers in here that follow me. Just wanted to say hello, and you guys have a nice night, okay?
Was a pleasure.
Yeah, I followed. Thanks for joining. I'm gonna start doing these daily. If you want to jump in, that'd be.
Yeah, let me know or tag me, and then I'll try to come on when you guys are on, okay? I had a nice time, really.
Okay. I just finished getting my food ready, so I gotta eat something too. So I think I'm gonna probably call it quits. Unless anybody has some other specific question. Yeah, it's about that time of clock. Okay. Well, it's been wonderful. I'll kick this back off tomorrow, and I appreciate everybody joining in. And I'll put up a recording of the chat in case you missed something or want to rehear something tomorrow. So yeah, appreciate it, everybody. Have a wonderful day, evening, wherever.
Was a pleasure. Great space, man.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you to everybody.
See everybody.